So I had a request for this one. This is a fun one. Somebody asked me to do golden era bodybuilding diets and compare them to what we're doing today. So I'm gonna go through over the next couple of weeks. I'll go through golden era bodybuilding diets, kind of the '80s bodybuilding diets. Go through the '90s. Things kind of are similar to what they were now. Really, 2000s when things really changed. But diets have evolved. That's probably drug protocols evolved a fair amount, but the diet's probably the area that have evolved the most. Guys back then were still doing high volume training, which seems to be the most popular thing in bodybuilding right now. I don't know the training's changed that dramatically, but some things have changed. But really, diet has changed quite a bit with bodybuilding. And you'll see when I go through on this one, I've got Frank Zane and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their diets. I picked Arnold because everybody knows fucking Arnold, and Frank was his nickname at Venice Beach was the chemist for various reasons. He was the guy that everybody went to. He was supposedly the brainiac of all the bodybuilders. He's the guy that people went to for cycles and nutrition advice. So looking at what he ate and how he got himself in condition, he was always in fairly decent condition for that time. He wasn't ripped by today's standards, but, he was in good condition, at that time. It probably is worthy of looking at what he was doing. Before we dig into it, if you like my video, please hit that like button. I'd also appreciate it if you subscribed. I get a lot of people watching my videos, not many people subscribing. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. The algorithms for YouTube searches like it when you subscribe. They show my videos more frequently. But anyway, let's dig into this. So Frank Zane, I picked some stuff out from an interview / seminar that he did about diet. His take on carbs, here's what he said. I've always had a limited amount of carbohydrates. My carbohydrate intake was was always lower than my protein intake. If I needed a boost, such as when I didn't get enough blood repletion, that's what they called a pump back then, during the training, I ate more carbohydrates. Generally, I used 4-day cycles. I had a low carbohydrate intake for 3 days, and then the next day I ate more carbs. So essentially, we'll stop here for a second. Frank Zane was doing carb cycling. When I was training, I never went above 3,000 calories a day. In general, I maintain a calorie intake between 2,000 and 3,000 calories a day. I did not make radical changes to my diet. I think the biggest mistake, that is the biggest mistake because it affects you in ways that you're not, that are not known to your body at all. So interesting. He only ate between 2,000 and 3,000 calories a day, and I saw an interview with him. He said he ate like that year round. That is not a lot of calories for a male bodybuilder. Hell, there are women's physique competitors that eat more than that now. I know if I eat, if I get below 3,500, I start losing weight. And I'm not Frank Zane, but he did not eat a lot of calories. It also explains why he wasn't a big guy. I think he was on the Olympia stage at 180 some pounds. He was a little dude. He probably couldn't even compete in men's physique today. So he goes on to talk more about carb cycling or rotating carbs in and out. He goes, let's suppose that I was on a low carbohydrate diet a month before a contest. Now I would be completely carbohydrate free for 5 days. On the 6th day, I may be physically exhausted, so what I can do is fill my body with carbohydrates as soon as I wake up. I can have roasted potatoes, probably before I go to the gym. This repletion should be good enough for the next few days. During these few days, I can maintain my energy and almost without carbohydrates, thanks to the increased fat intake. Amino acids and liver support supplements will help you get through the carbohydrate-free days. You'll notice, I'll show you an example of his diet. These guys back then, they ate a pretty high-fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate diet. That's the way they ate back then. It wasn't keto, but wasn't far off from it. Pre-workout meals. Let me slide down here. I relied a lot on pre-workout food. Before training, I always had protein and carbohydrates. After training, I relaxed and sometimes ate a few hours later. It depended on how demanding my training was. When I got hungry, I just ate. Usually my first meal after training was a protein drink and some sort of protein carbohydrate mix. So those guys back then, they would drink a protein shake after they work out. It was usually shitty ass milk protein. I think that's really all it was around. Milk, it's just straight milk based protein. And it's interesting, that's so the low fat, high protein, high carbohydrate pre workout meal is still a thing today. And then he said he would have carbs and protein again after his workout sometimes. Protein, I kept my protein at 1 gram per pound of body weight, usually between 190 and 200 grams per day. Scientific information shows now that somewhere around the 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight is adequate. Most modern bodybuilders now are eating 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein. It's probably overkill, but I guess the theory with modern bodybuilding is that, it's better to be a little over than not enough. So here's a sample diet. He also intuitively ate, I saw another thing where he said he just ate when he was hungry. Okay. Which is wild. And I don't know that he really counted calories that strictly. They talk about calories, but, as far as I know, the first guy that got really strict with weighing and measuring food, from what I understand, or at least he claims it, is Rich Gaspari, which was in the mid to late 80s. And he also claims to be the first guy with shredded glutes, but he really measured and weighed everything to a degree that guys weren't doing before. So Frank Zane's diet: first meal, he'd have three whole eggs, 8 ounces of calf liver, and a baked yam. Second meal, 8 ounces of steak, cottage cheese, and vegetables. Third meal, 6 egg omelet with cheese and potatoes. And fourth meal, 8 ounces of ground beef in a large salad. You would assume if he was going to work out, he'd have his protein shake afterwards. And then on the workout days, he would have his higher carbohydrate, lower fat meal. So Arnold, let's look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's diet. Arnold said he ate the following primarily: whole eggs. He ate 3 to 4 eggs every day. He was a big proponent of eating eggs. Arnold talks about he was famous for just drinking them raw. Have you ever seen the old videos of him? I don't know if that was just something he did to show off, or if he really did that all the time, but supposedly he drank raw eggs all the time. So he would have 3 to 4 eggs, usually in the morning. He ate a lot of whole foods, high fat stuff. He ate bacon and sausages. He would have Ezekiel bread, avocados, oats, grilled fish, steak, chicken, vegetables. He ate a lot of nuts, sweet potato, brown rice, and full fat cottage cheese. There's some stories from when he was younger that when he would drink whole cream milk and just do some crazy shit. He said in this interview I read with him that he would have 2 protein shakes a day. Same type of protein shakes that Frank Zane would do. He said he would have one post-workout and then another one, at other times. He said he had a really light appetite, so he had to force himself to eat. He said he never had a very strong appetite. He would have a cheat meal on Sundays. Him and Franco Colombo were rumored to go to this, I don't know the place, but it was some famous pie place there in Southern California, and he would go eat a whole fucking pie on a Sunday. From what he said we'd eat somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 calories a day, significantly more than Frank Zane. And he was also a bigger dude than Frank Zane, which is probably why. An example of his diet was quarter cup of oats. That's raw. 4 whole eggs, and bacon for breakfast. I don't know of any bodybuilders that eat that now. Post-workout, he'd have his milk protein powder, likely. Meal 2, some sort of grilled fish or red meat, vegetables. Meal 3, large salad with olive oil or avocado or macadamia nut oil, almonds, walnuts, a sweet potato, 1 or 2 sweet potatoes. Then you have another protein shake. Meal 4, steak, something, more grilled meat, steak, vegetables, Large salad with with olive oil, avocado, or macadamia nut oil as a base. I don't know that they used macadamia nut oil back then. I found this on the internet. And brown rice. And in meal five, Arnold, I read where he loved eating cottage cheese before he went to bed, and he would have nuts with it again. As you can see here, his diet also is a higher fat, lower carbohydrate diet. There's not a lot of carbs in this diet, a fair amount of fat. We could work up the macros on it, but it is way more fat than what you would see a modern bodybuilder, most modern bodybuilders eating. Most modern bodybuilders are doing higher carbs, lower to moderate fat, and higher protein than what these guys were doing. So anyway, this just kind of gives you some insight on what these dudes were eating back then. It was very different than what it is now. I don't think these guys were strictly measuring and weighing everything, like cats are now, but, they would just eyeball stuff, and they would yank out some carbs if they needed to lose some body fat. That was just kind of their technique back then. They would just eat less carbs when they needed to lose body fat. They'd add more carbs in when they wanted to get bigger. It was really that simple. That's really all there wasn't a lot of thought put into it. I don't think there was a lot of calculating BMR and all the stuff that we do now. It was just kind of intuitively eating at that time. But anyway, I hope you like this. Have a great day.